Hello all. It's the old geek here, and I'm going to attempt one of these reaction video type things. I work in a shop, and working in a shop has its busy times and its quiet times. And obviously, while I'm busy, I'm putting stock out and I'm dealing with customers and phone calls and talking to the boss and all that sort of stuff. But during the quiet times, I'm often left by myself, and I'd have a habit of sitting and browsing through YouTube, watching other people's videos, mostly on gaming. And that's how I've discovered quite a few of the people I subscribe to. And some of those people also subscribe to me now, which is nice. I was I commented on someone's video last week, and um, so I checked out his channel this afternoon and saw that he'd had a little bit of a discussion about a questing beast video, and they were dissecting um, questing beast's reaction to an article that he'd read, and it seemed like the article might be interesting because they had a lot to say, and Questing Beast had a lot to say, and not everyone had the same opinion. So I thought, what about tonight? I'll come home and I'll look up that article, and I'll see what I think of it. This is an experiment. This might be a car crash. I might be rubbish at doing this. Let's find out. Anyway, this is the article. It's a website called Hellgate NYC. I have no idea what they do or what they are. New York City, I'm guessing NYC. Yeah, that's America, as in not Britain. So, okay, well, fair enough. And the article is entitled, "It's Not You, It's Not Just You. NYC Has a Serious Dungeon Master Shortage." As the pandemic ushered in well-publicised worker shortages, Dungeons and Dragons is experiencing its own labour crisis. I haven't got my reading teeth in tonight. And it was written about a month ago. So, Questing Beasts videos had a few thousand views as well, 40 odd thousand. So obviously, might have drawn a bit of interest. So there we see that apparently is a cartoon of a dungeon master or a dungeon mistress carrying a big D20 on her back, being chased by monsters. Given what they were talking about on the two videos I watched today, I'm guessing those monsters are there to portray the players. Are the players monsters? Is this what the problem is? Is this what's causing the crisis? I don't know. Shall we find out? By Henry Solotaroff Weber. Okay, let's see what Henry has to say. Mar Salazar, one of the relatively small number of dungeon masters struggling to keep up with the exploding Dungeons and Dragons community in New York, led our adventuring party across a barren plain where we encountered two wyverns, small dragon-like creatures with wings for arms, feasting on some sort of carrion. Okay, fair enough. You get exploding Dungeons and Dragons community in New York. That's marvelous. It was a rainy Monday night at Hex & Co., a bustling board game cafe with two locations. This one on the Upper West Side. Our party, 6 players and the DM, sat in a partitioned area with Magic the Gathering players noisily engaging in a tournament around us. I've experienced that before. Met one of my groups playing in a shop, and we were surrounded by Magic the Gathering players, and yes, they're noisy, and no, they don't have a volume filter, and yes, they jump up and down and shout and screech, and yeah, it can be frustrating. Drinking beer, yeah, good, and picking at snacks as our DM brought us into the world of the Shattered Dragonlands. This was the second introductory session with the option to join a full campaign later, one of 25 sessions run by Hex & Co. every week. Okay, so Hex & Co. Looks like it's a successful board game cafe. We've started getting a few of those over in Britain. I went to a convention at one in the middle of Birmingham a couple of years back. It was good, so I'd happily go to it again. In fact, one of these days I'd love to run one of those things myself. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But I'm I've only done 4 years in retail. I've got no money behind me, so I don't think there's going to be any real opportunity for that. As we drew closer to the wyverns, Salazar narrated a human hand extending out of the mangled mass with a golden ring adorning its finger. Oh, a bit of horror. Like that. Good. Taking advantage of the wyverns' preoccupation with their meal, we rushed in, weapons drawn and spells prepared. So, being heroes, charging in, I'm guessing they're playing 5th edition. Yeah, that's... First edition, they'd have just sort of hung back and peppered the wyvern with arrows and maybe then cast a spell from distance and hid and tried to avoid combat. The 23-year-old Salazar was dressed in sharp business casual, performing different accents for every character. I know it's a thing now to do accents. I try to do them. I'm not very good at them. I've got certain ones I can do and certain ones I can't. If I attempt a Welsh accent, I sound like I'm from India. If I attempt an Indian accent, I sound like I'm from Wales. I can do a bad French accent. I can do a bad Cockney accent. That's London, for those who don't know what Cockney is. I can do a bit of York, a bit of Yorkshire. I can do my local sort of Birmingham accent and a posh accent. And I can do a southern states drawl as well, but that's about it. I can't do German, can't do Italian, can't do any of the other American regional ones. So we're all limited, but okay. I guess if you're a professional dungeon master, you've got to learn a few accents, haven't you? Because that's what they expect. Okay. Right, like other professional DMs throughout the boroughs, he's responding to the demand for dungeon masters in New York that attended D&D's surge in popularity as the game came out of the basement and attracted a broader community of fans. It has done that in recent years. At least 50 million people have interacted with D&D in some way since its invention in the 70s. I think that's an odd term. I mean, what is interacting with D&D? Is that just seeing it as an advertisement, or is it watching the D&D cartoon? Are you interacting? I don't know. It has exploded in recent years thanks to live streams, high-profile pop culture references to the game, and the proliferation of D&D specific online communities. Yeah, that's true. It has benefited from Stranger Things, from the effect of the pandemic. It has benefited from just general nerd culture becoming much more acceptable and much more popular. I know when I was a kid in the 80s, the people who were revered by the youth tended to be pop stars and sportsmen. And the nerds are dominating life. I mean, look at the success of the likes of Zuckerberg and people like that. How much, yeah. There's money to be made in nerdery. Okay, let's have a look. But as the pandemic ushered in well-publicised worker shortages, role-playing is experiencing its own labour crisis. Right, okay. In 2020, D&D sales jumped a third, which exacerbated an age-old problem, the Dungeon Master shortage. An age-old problem. I started playing in 1983. I don't remember any issues with finding people to run games. I could run games. One of my friends could run games. Two of my friends could run games, different games, and no, there was I don't remember a shortage. But of course, I'm on this side of the Atlantic, so. But I've never really seen a Dungeon Master shortage. There's a DM shortage in the tabletop community, like there's a top shortage in the LGBTQ community. Right. Thought we were talking about gaming. Don't know why need to bring sex into it. It doesn't matter what you do in the bedroom. I don't care what you do in the bedroom, but I don't want it in my gaming. So that's unnecessary. Briefly for the uninitiated, in D&D, a group of players collaboratively play out a story in a world created by the Dungeon Master, or pre-written source material. Yeah, both are valid. Rolling dice to simulate chance as their characters travel through the game and encounter various challenges. like the aforementioned wyverns. Characters are assigned specific abilities, and a complex set of rules arbitrated and enforced by the Dungeon Masters standardise the game. Yeah, I guess to the uninitiated, they might appear to be complex. They're not all that complex. They don't have to be. They're only as complex as you make them. Typically, the DM spot would be determined by seniority of experience with D&D or other role-playing games. Yeah, not always. Not sometimes, but not always. The person who'd played the longest would win the game. No, that's not true. Not true at all. Alternately, it would be the person in the friend group who is the best with logistics and plan wrangling. No, that's not true either. No, it's normally the one with the biggest mouth. The DM is almost up. Well, when we were kids, the DM was the one who'd just go, "I'll do it." Back in the day, game shops would have physical bulletin boards featuring players or DMs looking to pair up. Okay. Talking about game shops rather than home groups. My experience in the 80s was purely with home groups at school, groups of friends. I didn't do the game shop thing. I don't remember game shops having games going on in them. Our local games workshop certainly didn't at that time, but probably different in America. I never thought it would be a big deal, just a little thing that I did. John Heath Clark, a professional DM and an administrator of Hex & Co.'s programme, told me of his hobby turned job. Then it all became a big deal with Stranger Things. Yeah, I've already mentioned that. Later, he found it hilarious that Stranger Things had gotten so much wrong. The Demogorgon is the name of an archdemon, he said. Demogorgon is the name of an archdemon. You don't need the at the front of it. Demogorgon is unique. Demogorgon is his name. So Demogorgon is the name of an archdemon. It's not the Demogorgon. That bit annoyed me in Stranger Things. It's like they named the monster the Lucifer. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. But playing the role of Dungeon Master can be a rewarding job, but it's sometimes thankless and always taxing. Sometimes thankless, but not usually. Always taxing. It can be a little stressful sometimes, and you've got to do a bit of preparation, but taxing? I guess it depends on whether you're running something you're really comfortable with people who you are comfortable with, and enjoying it. I don't find it particularly taxing. There have been times that I've been panicky getting things set up for a session because I've been stuck at work or something like that. But yeah, you probably become more relaxed with experience. D&D can be overwhelming to any new player. This is especially true for a DM who needs to know all the rules, adjudicate them, create or manage the story, plan logistics for their group, and cater the experience for what each player wants. Okay. When you are starting out in a role-playing game, it doesn't have to be D&D, it can be any role-playing game, and I would argue there are probably better games to start with than 5th edition D&D. It's only as overwhelming as the group make it for the new player. KISS. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. There is no need to fling everything at a new player. When 5th edition was released, it was done very sensibly initially, with a free online sort of introductory pack. Okay, you only had a limit of number of races and limited number of classes, but it was perfect for beginners. So there's no need to throw someone in at the deep end. Why, when you've got beginners, why don't you just keep it very simple? Keep it, don't overwhelm them with options. So it can be overwhelming, but only if you get your approach wrong. This is especially true for a DM. The first time you're DMing, you might be nervous, yes, but again, keep it simple, stupid. DMs. If you're new, put your foot down. Start simple. Don't burden yourself with every option. Don't think you need to use every single book out there, every class race option, every optional rule. No. If you're not happy with just that free download stuff, you just need a copy of for 5th edition, a copy of the Player's Handbook, and an adventure to work with. Lost Mines of Phandelver, perfect starter. Player's Handbook options, Lost Mines of Phandelver. It's not hard. A DM who needs to know all the rules. When you start out, it's a good idea to try and play the rules as written, but make it clear to your players that you are new. And if the players are remotely sensible, they'll take that into account. And if they're new as well, you can blunder along together. And nobody needs to know all the rules. Yes, you can look them up. But the first rule in D&D is make it up on the fly and check it after the session. As long as you know the basic of the D20 and what the target numbers you've got to reach are to perform whatever, make a saving throw, attack, and the basic damage dice for your weapon, the basic modifiers, which aren't complicated, then off you go. I will say that I do think that basic D&D is a better starting game. And I'm pretty sure you can get the old basic sets. I don't know which ones, but they'll maybe Moldvay Basic or Mensa Basic. I'm sure they're still available on Drive-Thru for a bit less than 5th edition books. It's a better game for beginners. Much simpler. Fewer options, I know, but fewer options is not a problem when you're new. In fact, it's a benefit. Adjudicate them? Yes, the DM is there to adjudicate the rules and make rulings. Create or manage the story. This is a modern zeitgeist thing. Create, manage the game environment, the relevant bit of the setting, or know the setting material, such as reading the first chapter of Lost Mines of Phandelver. Doesn't take very long. Very easy first chapter to get your teeth into. You don't need to know all about the Forgotten Realms to run that. You just need to read that 8 to 10 pages that form that first chapter. Then off you go. That's fine. But create the story. No. This is where my old school mindset comes in. The most satisfying stories are those that emerge at the table. Keep it simple. Let the story emerge. Have a location. Have a very basic, very simple plot. Very simple. Fetch and carry. Rescue. Whatever. Or even just kill the monsters lurking in a cave. That's fine. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that, especially to start with. And then let the players' actions create the story. Plan logistics for their group. Right. Yeah, it often falls on the DM's shoulders to organise, but doesn't have to. Doesn't have to at all. Certainly, however you want to organise yourselves, whether it's through WhatsApp or Facebook or email or old-fashioned phone calls or whatever, it doesn't have to be the DM who's doing that. I know it usually falls down to the DM, but players, a DM would be really happy if you organise it. Give them an extra 20 minutes, half an hour, just to read over whatever they're running or add a bit of extra for the link. Give and take. And cater the experience for what each player wants. What about what the DM wants? I know it's called gatekeeping nowadays, but part of getting a successful group is matching the right people together. And it's perfectly possible for a DM to be wrong for a group, a player to be wrong for a group, one or two players to be wrong for the rest of the players in the group, and the DM, whatever. You need to gel with your group for the DM to work, and that's not always possible. Thankfully, online, you've got the option of finding like-minded people to do this sort of thing. But cater the experience what each player wants. The players need to be flexible as well there. Make sure that they are catering their playing to what the DM wants as well. It's a two-way thing. Gaming is a two-way thing. The amount of effort involved makes it inaccessible for new players and difficult for experienced ones to sustain long term. No, incorrect. Only if you're putting too much stress on the DM, too much pressure on the DM. It doesn't have to be like that at all. It can be very simple to start out as long as everyone is clear. Everyone keeps it simple. Don't try and dive in too deeply, and don't expect too much from a beginner. Keep your expectations grounded. But then there's other issues there. A lot of people will have come to D&D from playing the rigid logistics of an MMORPG, another video game where the rules are set in stone. Or they may have watched YouTube games, which are only games in the loosest term, because some of these are quite slick productions using experienced voice actors. Don't be watching all of those and come to a game of D&D and expect it to be the same. Because it won't be. There are scripts involved there. There's expectations that have been laid out to make it a show for those who are watching. That's not the same for a game at your table. All of which has conspired to make it harder to find people to actually run the spiking number of campaigns. I think a lot of DMs just want to sit back and let other people run a game. Yeah, sometimes. One dungeon master on hiatus from running campaigns told me, there's a DM shortage in the tabletop community like there's a top shortage in the LG. Oh, this is where that quote came from. I do wish they just left that quote as there's a DM shortage in the tabletop community. We don't need to know everybody's sex life. What is it with shouting what you do in the bedroom from rooftops nowadays? It's irrelevant to what goes on at the game table. Just play the game. Just have fun. That's what we're all there to do. Worsan tries to cater the client experience to the best of his ability, even accommodating the bachelor parties. Okay, that's going to be another quote from later on. Okay. The shortages makes it difficult for many players to find games, especially ones that are high quality and in person. We're coming back to expectations, aren't we? I mean, it's going to be a shill for paid DMing, isn't it? Yeah, okay. On websites like Lex, never heard of it, and Reddit, heard of that. It's a cesspit. Posts of players in the city looking for DMs outnumber the opposite significantly, with the latter consistently getting more traction. For Hex & Co.'s program alone, there are 900 on the email recruiting list to join one of their organised campaigns. Okay. So, are we saying there's a DM shortage simply because Hex & Co. don't have enough DMs to run games and enough space? More premises, more DMs, off you go. That's a professional concern. And why are people assuming if they're playing D&D it has to be professional? What happened to having just that bit of completely amateur fun with your mates around the table? Is this... I know society these days is very short-termist in its approach. Quick dopamine hits. Is that what people are chasing here? They want to go in, drop 20 quid, $20, $30, however many, and then just get maximum fun possible in 3 hours and get up and walk away and not have to worry about it and not have to put any thought into it. That's not D&D for me. I'm sorry. I like my players to chat about the D&D game during the week and maybe offer a bit of input and just generally have fun and then hang out and have an enjoyable game, nice and relaxed, kick shoes off and just drink tea and no stress. It's only stressful if you make it stressful. So this looks to be like a New York problem amongst people who want to pay for paid DMs. There's a shortage of paid DMs. Is there a shortage of DMs? Probably not. Just make your expectations reasonable. Someone touch my dice. I wish this was sexual, but I just desperately want to play D&D soon. God, here we go again. A user on the Queer Personals app, so that's what Lex is, no wonder I didn't know about it, wrote on a post back in June. Right. You're looking at this the wrong way round. Why are you using a gay personals app to find a game of D&D? People don't go on that sort of thing. Not in my experience. I've never used a dating app of any sort ever. What an old boomer I am. Been married 20 years. People don't go on personals apps looking at adverts where people say, someone touch my dice. Someone touch my balls, maybe, but not dice. The response was good, but not exactly what they'd hoped for. They later edited it to say, like, 40 of y'all like this, but no one invited me to their D&D group or to a group date to Hex & Co. Because it looks like you've used a dating app or a personals app that people use for dating. People aren't going on there looking for nerds. They're going on there looking for something else. Again, we should be talking D&D and not sex lives. I find sex lives boring. One solution that has emerged to this problem are players paying for a professional DM in New York City. Okay, right, yeah. People pay. I wouldn't do it, but in New York City, some of these DMs are functionally gig workers contracting with a service like Hex & Co.'s, where players pay the store $90 per month for 4 sessions. maybe I'll reassess there. Where do you sign up? And the proceeds are split between the store and the DM. Others do it as a paid hobby and pitch their campaign idea and nominal fee in places like Facebook groups. Are you tired of experimental nuance, craving a less complicated tabletop roleplay experience? Read one post in a Facebook New York City D&D group. That's fine. Yeah. I'm tired of experimental games. I like it to be less complicated. I'd answer that sort of advert. They probably wouldn't want me being an old git, though. Some have managed to make a full career out of organising bespoke games for a significantly higher fee, charging upwards of $100 per hour. Doing the maths, it's about 80 or 90. Okay, they'll create campaigns for a group of players tailored to their interests, experience levels and playing styles, providing a suite of game terrains and miniatures they'll tote to players' homes. Okay, if they're providing all special miniatures and whatever, that's what their players want, and then driving it to their homes, yeah, I'm guessing they've probably got video screens and all sorts. Adam Werson is one such DM. Werson, based out of Astoria, don't know where that is, quit his job to pursue full-time DMing just before the pandemic. He had to rely on doing online games during lockdown, but once restrictions eased, players began asking for live games as well, as they would. They'd have been craving for them. For sessions with his clients, he brings miniature figurines of monsters and entire scaled models of various settings and landscapes. Werson also brings a fantasy setting he's been developing since he was 16, based on ancient Egypt and high fantasy. Okay, yeah, great. Ancient Egypt is a wonderful setting. A typical... How long is this article? A typical day for Werson looks like a morning of planning for the day's sessions, including story prep. He'll paint and prepare miniatures before embarking on the day's games, working with kids in the afternoon and adults in the evening. So he's being paid to do his hobby. Occasionally he'll do the odd event like a bachelor party. Yeah, that's that quote before. Bachelor party, stag do week, as we call it over here. If I suggested playing D&D for a stag night. Look, the only stag nights I've ever been to have involved doing laddish things, going go-karting, going to a strip club, going to a comedy club, and getting absolutely bladdered and probably being sick at the end of the night. That's what we do instead. Stag parties. D&D stag party. No. Werson tries to cater the clients. Yeah, that's that quote. Even accommodating the bachelor party's request to incorporate a clown that they had hired. Okay. Demand has picked up as the pandemic has eased, especially as the weather gets colder. That said, Werson's business isn't... Am I going to read all of this? That said, Werson's business isn't quite to the point where he has been able to live solely off the income of being a DM. Being paid 80 quid an hour. What's he doing wrong? Is he only getting an hour's work a day? I work in a shop. I earn about £80 a day. I support my family on that. Okay, I don't live in New York, but one session a day? Okay. If I get a couple more clients at my current rates, it should be good. And I've been steadily pumping up my rates from the get-go. Okay, and he said, but he's thrilled he's gotten us this far as a professional freelancer. Regarding his professional DM status, Werson says it's tight. I feel like anybody should be able to do anything that makes them happy for a living and make an honest, real living wage doing... Yeah, no problem. Yeah, do what you want. If you can get paid doing what you enjoy, then all power to your elbow. I used to run 5 pub quizzes a week. And it was a hobby that became a job, and it got too much after a while. Going out 5 nights a week, social life went down the Swanee, but still, I enjoyed hosting them. I didn't enjoy writing the questions for all of them. Yeah. Lauren Belanco, still going on. Another professional DM is hoping to ease the Dungeon Master shortage by making the practice more accessible and sustainable. In addition to offering private sessions, Belanco owns and operates 20-sided store, a Williamsburg game shop. For years leading up to the pandemic, Belanco and the store's employees organised multi-DM campaigns, where tables would run simultaneously and 56 players would switch DMs and party members every week. Yes, that's the old school way of doing it. Multiple DMs, whoever turns up and plays. Swapping characters between groups or whatever. Yeah, whoever turns up, off you go, have fun. Allowing each DM to show off their unique style and each player to figure out the kind of DMing they like and dislike while following the same story. It's a West Marches game. Nothing wrong with that. Lauren Belanco, you sound based. It blossomed into a community where DMing was more fluid and everyone would go out for drinks after each session. Yes! Social. It's a social thing. It's not just turning up, bunging down 20 quid, getting off on 3 hours of rolling dice and being a hero, and then going, bye, see you next week. You get the most fun out of D&D when you're playing with friends. These events, which Belanco hopes to scale back up in the future, allowed new players to become familiar with the game. Yeah, precisely. You learn from the people around you, and I imagine they started off simple as well. But they also allowed people who wanted to be DMs to learn the art of Dungeon Master, to do without as much of the burden that comes with running a game on one's own. Yes, Belanco is also developing her own game system that would offer DMs a tabletop role-playing experience with minimal prep, and without the high entry cost of books and rules that come with D&D. There are already other systems out there you could use. Basic Fantasy. OSE, Swords and Wizardry. You don't have to play the latest thing. And plus, the base, as I've said already, the basic rules for 5th edition are free. The starter set costs, probably get it on eBay now for $10. Perfect. That will get you started. You don't need to. It's a fallacy that you need to spend a lot of money on the books. That's only. I'm guessing maybe when you've got players going, I want to play the latest option in blah de blah de blah splat book. DM, you can say no. You can keep it simple. Additionally, she's given seminars for aspiring DMs and hopes to establish a certification course for professionals. The idea is that anyone who wants to make their DMing more sustainable by getting compensated financially for it can feel more comfortable doing so. Thinking about what to say here. Look, I've been DMing on and off for quite a long time. I DM'd for about 10 years and then stopped playing for 20 years. I've been back in the hobby another 10 years. I've been DMing most of that time. Lots of different games. And I have to say that I don't think I'd be comfortable being paid, because it would put more pressure on me. Shouldn't, but it would. I've been told that I'm not a bad DM. Okay, I'm not a master DM. I don't claim to know everything. I don't have a mastery of all the accents. My preparation can sometimes be a bit wonky, but I'm a good improviser, and I'm good at taking and twisting basic rules to fit something in the moment to keep a game moving. I don't feel beholden to the books, and that seems to get a lot of positive feedback. That style gets a lot of positive feedback from the people I'm playing games with at the moment. I've had my ups and downs over the last few years. I dealt poorly with a problem player a few years back, but I've learned from that, and that's how you learn. I'd be a lot more forceful, a lot stronger now. But I take care to run games that I enjoy. And that then seems to rub off on the players. Because if the DM is enjoying the game, it's much more likely that the players will too. That's assuming the DM's a half decent DM. Because of course you've got an idiot DM who gets enjoyment out of causing pain. Then, not, I mean, of course part of the game is causing pain to the characters. But I mean, going beyond testing the characters, I mean getting some sort of satisfaction out of being a complete troll to the players. That's a problem. But as long as you've got a fairly mature, I don't mean physically mature, just mentally mature, fairly mature DM who's capable of basic communication and interaction, bit of respect, and has the ability to, and is enjoying the game and has the ability to project that enjoyment on their group, then the players have got a much better chance of enjoying it themselves. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit tangent there. Amongst some hobbyist DMs I talked to, yeah, I'm one of those, but he didn't talk to me, the prospect of getting paid for their craft would add too much pressure, I've just said this, to deliver something special to their players. For one, it would ruin the sanctity of the game. Yeah, I wouldn't phrase it that way, but you're not wrong. For others, though, including myself, it's an enticing prospect. From a simple economic standpoint, there are a certain number of hours in a week I need to devote to earning money. Yeah, I mean, I do 40-odd hours a week in a shop, so it doesn't leave me a lot of time to earn other money. I spend another 5 to 10 hours a week on my pub quizzes as well, so I'm already working 45 to 50 hours a week, plus my YouTube channel, so it's not feasible for me. Being able to use some of those to DM would make it more feasible. And on a broader scale, it might allow more players to play, creating more potential DMs down the line, professional or otherwise. Yes. If you train more people up in gaming, and training's a bad word, but if you give more people experience of laid back, enjoyable casual gaming, not necessarily paid gaming always, then you will naturally attract more DMs to the hobby. Bilanco agrees, and her attempts to expand the pool of dungeon masters reflects a sense that even D&D players should be paid for their labour. D&D DMs, right? I feel like anybody should be able to do anything that makes them happy for a living and make an honest, real living wage doing their art. Nothing wrong with that. She said, I look at it that professional DMing is becoming a professional freelance artist and there needs to be support around it. Right. Okay. My thoughts. I don't know why this article is considered to be... Certainly the first half of the article is considered to be important enough for people to get into heated discussions about it. Because the first half of the article was basically nothing more than successful New York cafe has game sessions that are oversubscribed. Lazy New York players can't be bothered to set up their own game groups and expect too much from their game. Expectations are too high. The second half of the article was a lot better, especially this last bit about Lauren Blanco. What she's doing is spot on. That's how you do it. You don't necessarily need to pay people to do that unless you really have a problem with attracting people in, which might be the core of the issue. Now, my face-to-face group, we don't have any issues with DMs. In fact, it's the other way round. There are 4 of us of the 7 in the group who are pushing to DM their own games. And we just don't have enough time in the week for us all to get a chance to do it. And I've never experienced a DM shortage, so maybe New York's very different. What's nice about my group is if one or two players can't make it, or the DM can't make it one week, we've always got someone else who will step in. We can fall back on, who'll run a one-shot for 3 or 4 players or whatever. We've got people there who are willing to do that. But it's also fair to say not all of my group are experienced. One of them is currently learning how to DM. And he's doing it the right way. Almost every session he does sort of pick my brains to how to resolve a certain situation. And that's absolutely fine. That's all you need to do, just be willing to help out. And I mean, us DMs, we're not some aloof figure at the back of the room that we're not approachable. We're just people. And just ask us if you shouldn't put any pressure on yourself. We've all got to learn somewhere. But it does come to me that I do think there is an issue with gaming culture at the moment, in that I think it's really easy to find a game. If you are willing to go online, do a bit of legwork yourself, or maybe pop down your local shop and play in an Adventurers League game. I hate Adventurers League. It's not my style of play, but I understand why it's there, and it's a great way for people to start. You've just got to bear in mind that if you've got experienced players in Adventurers League, quite often the reason they're doing Adventurers League is because other groups kick them out, so you might get a few dickheads. But it is easy to find a game. It's just people are being very picky by the sound of things, and people not willing to do their own legwork, not willing to invest a bit of time. Maybe it's a lifestyle thing. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Haven't got enough time in the day. But if you want to just play a game, you can just walk into a shop. A lot of places. It doesn't have to be a professional setup like the one mentioned in this article. I know there's a local shop by me. They just do drop in and play a couple of nights a week, and anyone can turn up. Just get in touch with them over Facebook. Anyhow, and the cost, it's not prohibitive. There are loads of free options available, or sub $10 options. You don't need all the latest shiny new books from Wizards of the Coast. You don't even have to play the latest version of D&D. I know it's the big thing, but I'll let you know something now. Stranger Things, they weren't playing 5th edition. those books they were using, certainly in the first series, that was the old Blue Expert book. But they weren't abiding by the rules either. They weren't playing to the rules. That's nothing like a D&D game. They're playing their own rules. But that's what kids do. That's what we did when we were kids. Our first games, you hadn't got a clue. You make it up as you go along. Anyhow. So, the article. Is there really a shortage of DMs? Or is it just that this particular option is oversubscribed? Set up your own group. Find one online. Have sensible expectations. Start low. Start simple. It doesn't need to be daunting. You don't need to go in with all of the options. And remember, the DM is there to have fun as well. If DMs are getting burnt out on the current D&D culture, maybe it's because players' expectations of the DM is too high. The DM isn't someone who is there to facilitate your fun. It's everybody's job to create fun for everybody else at the table. That includes all the players and the DM. Everybody is there to facilitate everybody's fun as a group. It's not the DM's job to make it fun for all of the players. Well, it is, but it's not just the DM's job to make it fun for all the players. It's the player's job to make it fun for the fellow players and the DM as well. But it might be different for professional DMs who have to go in with an idea of serving their customers. That's when it becomes difficult. That's when it becomes a service. And that's where I would probably draw the line. As I said, I'm an experienced DM. I've had a lot of positive feedback for my games in recent years. And a lot of the people I run them for, I've never even seen their faces. It's over on Discord. And I'm getting nice things said about the games afterwards, which is lovely. And some of these are experienced players. Some of these are more experienced at gaming than me. So it's always nice to get that sort of feedback. When someone says, "Oh, John runs a decent horror game," or "That was a really, really great game and Merp thoroughly enjoyed that." As a DM, I love hearing that. But that's the only payment I want. Face to face, I like it. Make me the odd cup of tea. So it's not just my local players who give me that positive feedback. Players, if you want more DMs, respect your DM. Give them constructive feedback. Be positive. Let them know what you want. Don't over-expect. Don't expect them to know what you want. And don't expect them to be Matt Mercer, who is the big name. Don't expect them to be a Matt Mercer, because Matt Mercer is a professional voice actor. And they have a production quality on that show. Even a professional DM in a shop is not going to hit those levels of voice and character depth. And not every DM wants to even attempt that. Because remember, the DM needs to enjoy it as well in order for you to enjoy it. Anyway, I think I've said enough on that. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. It was very much a train of thought, just blah, blah, blah. I've never done one of these before, and you might hate it, but let me know in the comments below. Hopefully I've made sense. But till my next video, I've been the Old Geek. See ya.